I'm here with our senior portfolio manager, Keith Stabasefski. And the reason why is we've seen 4% plus drop in the US stock market already today. And there's been a lot of news that's come out. So I wanted us to take a few minutes and just be able to explain exactly what's going on, what we're doing about it, what we're looking for. So, Keith, first off, I appreciate you coming on to do
Sure.
this. Talk to us a little bit about what's causing such a dramatic and swift drop.
So essentially, what happened, right? Trump released his tariff plan last night after the market, and it was worse than what the market had already priced in. So the market is trying to catch up and price in what they perceive to be the impact going forward. Essentially, the market was thinking that maybe there'd be a uniform tariff of 15% or less. According to Goldman Sachs, that number was closer to 18, 19%. So now there's a concern about slowing growth, further than what was already priced in, and an increased inflation.
Mm-hmm. So how's that directly impacting the markets? What are the markets and sections that are being impacted the most?
It's pretty sweeping across everything. Your consumer discretionary stuff is being affected quite substantially, mainly due to the de minimis tariff that was essentially anything coming in from China that was below a certain dollar amount didn't get a tariff. Now that's no longer the case. Semiconductors, stuff that gets predominantly manufactured outside of this country, has been hit the hardest.
Yep. Now, this also came out of left field, right? Like you said, what was priced in and expected versus what actually came out.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also heard the message over the last couple of years of getting interest rates and inflation in control and the Fed cutting rates and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
What's that outlook now? Is it uncertain, or is there a new direction? What does that look like?
So there's really only one tool that the Fed has to control inflation, and that's raising interest rates. So we've, over the last couple of years, been decreasing interest rates from that peak of inflation from 2022. With the expected inflation going back up, the odds for rate cuts or further rate cuts has greatly diminished.
Mm-hmm.
There's a I don't know, a seesaw effect a little bit, right? Because when growth slows, the Fed has the tool to cut interest rates to stimulate growth. They're kind of handcuffed a little bit when inflation's high. So the market is also trying to grapple with that of, okay, well, what kind of safety net is there going to be in the event of a recession? Goldman, as of this morning, Goldman was putting the recession slightly higher, around 35%, but anything can change.
Sure. And by 35%, you mean you mean 35% chance of a recession happening. Yep. Mm-hmm. What are we doing about it? And I know that every client's different, right? How we're managing things for everybody is going to be unique to them and their situation. So we can just keep this kind of broad and general. What are some of the proactive things that we're doing to respond to what's going on and what may come down in the future?
Sure. So, I mean, inflation is definitely going to be a top concern. And with that, like we saw in 2022, owning long maturity, long duration fixed income products, bonds that mature longer out in time, do not perform well in an inflationary environment. So we would certainly start first by looking at, okay, where can we reduce risk by in the fixed income and the defensive side of the portfolio. Mm-hmm. So getting rid of some of the long duration securities and moving to a more shorter time frame, more short duration securities would be step one. And then the second step is thinking about rebalancing into equities at reduced prices, right? These companies that we tend to invest in are, they're blue chip, they're cream of the crop, right? So we're getting a discounted price right now. It may take a little while for that price to recover to what we had seen in February. Mm-hmm. But historically, the market does recover, so we should be taking advantage of just buying some of these things a little cheaper.
Yeah, one of the things we talk about with clients all the time is using Black Friday as the analogy, right? So the day after Thanksgiving, everybody tramples over each other to get discounts at stores.
Right.
And when we see those discounts happen in the stock market, everybody's trampling over each other to get away from those sales
Right.
or discounts. And yet, if you look at any sort of successful portfolio management, investment management strategy, it has a ton to do with when and how you're buying, right?
Mhm.
Getting in at the right price, finding the opportunities to get discounts, things like that. So I think that proactivity is going to be extremely important because it's not like these companies changed, the environment around them changed,
Mhm.
but we're still screening them the same way that we were 2 days ago.
Yep. And these companies are they're not just going to, sit down and just take these tariffs, right?
Right.
They're going to find ways to work around or work with them, right? They're not going to ultimately suffer, um, and they're going to find ways to be successful.
So that's where we are right now as far as what we're looking at and some of the things we're trying to do to be proactive for our clients. What are the things you're watching looking forward? Because again, this came out of left field.
Mhm.
So we don't know what next week will bring. We don't know what next month will bring. But what are some of the things you're looking at that will help us dictate other ways for us to be proactive?
Yeah, so we need the data to come through first and foremost, right? So we need to see what the impact of the tariffs will be from an inflationary standpoint, right? We need to actually see some hard quantifiable data. Um, then all that stuff trickles into the other things, right? What is the job market doing, right? Are companies trying to prop up earnings by laying off people, or if that has its own set of negative consequences, right? But if they're not, right, if they're finding other ways, whether it's supply chain management or what have you, um, and the job market still stays robust, well, then the odds of a recession go way down.
Mhm.
So it's just looking at all those different components that go into the output from a GDP perspective, and then making adjustments along the way.
My thought is, I think that's good for. Sorry, excuse me. I think that's good for today to give people a little insight of kind of where we are,
Mhm.
and then we'll just make sure that we're keeping you guys updated as other things come out. Right, as we collect this data, what are the things we're looking at? What are the things that we're trying to do? And as with everything, your situation as you're watching this is going to be different than other people. So everything we're talking about here is supposed to be general.
Mhm.
Do your own research, talk to us, get the advice that you need to make sure you're making the right choices and navigating these choppy waters. Keith, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Thanks.
Thanks. Have a good one.